Jimmy Butler is staying with the Miami Heat. Yes, you heard that correctly. A lot of hoopla this offseason about he could be traded. That was kind of all put to the, stop from Shams Charania. And it looks like Jimmy will be here for the foreseeable future, at least the next 2 or 3 seasons, if there is an extension had. Let's just jump right into the news here, because yesterday Shams Charania dropped this quote when he was on his little TV show and talking to Pat McAfee, and he said that my sense is Jimmy doesn't want to be anywhere but Miami. This is something we'll see play out over the next month or so. The Heat don't want to trade him, but he wants an extension. Will they give it to him is the question. And I want to say this right now, and I think I've been pretty firm on this stance throughout the last month or so. Jimmy Butler was never going to be traded. He wants to be in Miami. The Heat want to keep him here. There is no reason to trade Jimmy Butler if you're Pat Riley or the Miami Heat. All the rumors you heard out there about him possibly being traded and NBA GMs across the league are keeping an eye on the Butler situation was all started by Daryl Morey of the Philadelphia 76ers, who's trying to drive a little gap in between Jimmy and Riley. There is an understanding here. And even though Pat Riley shared some harsh words for Jimmy and his inability to play 65-plus games for the Miami Heat over the past couple seasons, they know this is a perfect marriage. Jimmy knows there's no other organization that fits him personally better than Miami. So now it's just up to the Heat to figure out if they want to give him an extension, will they do it this offseason, and how they build around Jimmy and Bam for the next 2 years as Butler does approach age 35 this upcoming September. And later on in the show, I am going to talk about how the Heat can move forward and what I would like to see them do this upcoming offseason, even if they don't get a Donovan Mitchell type player that can be an all-star and all-NBA guard in the backcourt. But first, I do want to finish the conversation on Jimmy Butler and what this extension would look like. This is what Jimmy wants, and this is really the entire breakdown of the situation. This upcoming season, Butler is under contract for $48.8 million. That will not change regardless of an extension or not getting an extension. But here's where the thing is differentiated. In 2025-2026, Jimmy Butler has a player option for $52.4 million. So hypothetically, if he doesn't get an extension, he could play this year out and then opt out next year and become an unrestricted free agent. The extension he wants is a 2-year, $113 million deal. That is what he's eligible to get on July 7th because of his supermax status. So what that extension would do would, instead of being a player option for the following season, it would be guaranteed, and he would get a $2 million raise for that individual season in 25-26 to $54.3 million. It would really just add one more year onto the Jimmy Butler contract because you're hoping he opts in anyway for 25-26. So that extension only gives you one more season at $58.6 million. And I get it, Jimmy would be 37, 38 years old that time around, but who else would you rather have leading your team? And I'm just going to state it, and I think I've said this in the past, but I'm doubling down, and I want you to make sure you know Nic Rohloff, the Heat Report stance on the Jimmy Butler situation. I have absolutely no issue giving him that 2-year Supermax extension this offseason. And I would probably do it this year rather than waiting till the following offseason where you could extend him and the player option becomes mute. But I'd want to get it done now so you know how to build this team in the future. He has been terrific in his 5-year career with the Miami Heat, and he has gotten better almost year after year. Now, there was a little bit of a dip in his efficiency at finishing around the rim this past season, which was a disappointment, but Jimmy can't be denied in his impact on the Heat. And the one thing that is starting to impress me is that his increased ability to knock down catch-and-shoot threes. It was at 41.4% this past season. I'd still like the volume of his three-point attempts off the catch to go up because there are too many times where he catches it, slows down the offense for 2 or 3 seconds rather than pulling the open shot the defense is giving him. And I get it because the defense wants to give him that shot. That's what they view as the easiest outcome for their defense. But Butler can make it, so make the opposing defense pay by knocking down those shots. The only thing that Jimmy needs to do is play more than 65 games, and hopefully he can continue to at least get better in that department and play 65, 70 games this upcoming year. But Jimmy Butler has just simply been dominant in the postseason over his Miami Heat tenure, which is the most important thing. When he is healthy, there is not let's say there's not more than 5 people in the entire NBA that rise to the occasion like Butler can. In 64 games over the past 4 seasons, because he didn't play this past playoff run, but playing 64 games in the postseason with Miami over 4 years is flat out incredible, by the way. He has been elite, averaging 25 a game, 7 rebounds, damn near 6 assists, while shooting 47.5% from the field and 34% from 3. He's had incredible series like last year against the Milwaukee Bucks, giving Jrue Holiday and that Bucks defense 35 a game as the 8-seeded Heat took him down in 5. Like, Jimmy is the best playoff riser in the Eastern Conference and a top 3, if not top 2 or 1 in the entire NBA in the postseason over the past couple of years. I'm giving him an extension because he has done right by Miami, and I think it's the good thing to do to help try to win as a franchise over the next 2 seasons. And I can guarantee something else for you, Heat fans. If Jimmy Butler does get an extension this offseason, we will come on here and give you a video breaking down the situation and what could be next for the Miami Heat. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we will have a video when that extension drops. And I am excited to hopefully have to talk about that video in a month or so. But if he does get an extension, the question is, how do the Heat move forward throughout the offseason to try to improve this roster alongside or around Jimmy and Bam and get back to the mountaintop where they can compete for an NBA championship? And not just get there, actually win the NBA title, because both times they've got to the finals, it's been kind of non-competitive, losing in 5 games to the Nuggets, losing in 6 games to the Lakers. Injuries obviously played a factor in both those playoff series, but they do need to be more competitive. And to me, the Heat roster needs a little bit of a shakeup around Jimmy and Bam. They attempted to do so this past regular season when they sent away Kyle Lowry and a future first-round pick to acquire Terry Rozier. But there needs to be more to better fit Jimmy and Bam, because that duo is one of the best duos in the East. They're great two-way players in their own rights, but they do need some help in terms of shooting because they work inside the arc most of the time, and they do score around the rim. So is there someone out there that can help fit those two type of players as they play? Well, there's 5 players on Miami that I think are movable guys, that aren't free agents, that are under contract this upcoming year, that you can use to go move and get better at this roster. Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, and the 2 young guys, Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr. Ideally, you keep these 2 if you're not trading for Donovan Mitchell or Lauri Markkanen, which would just make these 3 the guys that you would likely move off of to improve on the margins. Duncan Robinson's the main guy I'll look at. $18 million contract this year, about the same next year. Could you move off that to get 1 or 2 role players that equal that same salary but better fit the Heat system? And then Tyler Hero, same thing with his $29 million salary. I'd like to keep Terry for 1 more year, but if it's necessary to move him, I think it's something that Pat Riley would look into, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But the NBA draft is exactly 2 weeks away. Yes, you heard that correctly. Next, or 2 Wednesdays from now, is when the draft is happening. And if you want to get the hat that whatever pick Miami makes at 15 will be wearing, you can find it at chatsports.com/HeatDraftHats. So get them on sale right now. One more time, chatsports.com/HeatDraftHats. That will be in the comments and description of today's video. Pretty sweet colorway. Get them any style you want. All right, let's go back to this now and these 5 guys, because Duncan and Hero are the 2 that I am going to single out. Like I mentioned, I'd like to see Terry return, and the 2 young guys, if you don't go get an All-NBA All-Star guy, I want them back as well. But Duncan and Tyler can be moved, and if you can get one of them, and I wouldn't trade both of them, but just one of them, and you could attach picks or move off of them and acquire a couple guys back, because the Heat need more size and athleticism on this roster. Too many times where we're just being looked at by opposing wings, opposing guards, getting blown by, taking them into the post and giving them work. Like, Jimmy and Bam can only do so much defensively and offensively as well. But if you can get guys that are comfortable attacking the rack and putting pressure on the rim and getting boards, helping Bam inside with grabbing defensive rebounds and closing possessions. That's what the Heat need. And obviously, I've been very open about this. Donovan Mitchell is the number one thing I want this offseason. If he does not sign a long-term extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Heat need to do everything in their power to try to acquire him and pair him up with Bam and Jimmy in the 305. But if that does not happen, we cannot do what we have been doing over the past 3 off seasons, where you look for a star. Last year was Dame. The year prior was KD and Donovan Mitchell. They didn't get them. They came up empty, but they didn't make any changes to the roster. They just said, we went whale hunting, we missed, we'll run it back. That cannot be the case. And whoever you make these additions, or whoever they are, to the roster, they need to be to get more athletic and big, but you also can't sacrifice shooting in that matter. You need to get more athletic, but still remain one of the better three-point shooting teams in the league, because when the Heat can make threes, as we've seen in 2021-22 when they were the first seed in the Eastern Conference, well, their defense can carry them to a top seed when the offense is solid. But let me know, and I got 5 guys that I don't think we would trade for, but I just want to mention these type of guys coming up in just a second. But let me know, what is the number one thing you want the Heat to do this offseason? It can be to add more size. It could be trade for Mitchell. Just let me know what you want the Heat to do as your number one priority. All right, these 5 players are not like guys that might be available. Some of them could, but I'm kind of just trying to show you the type of player I'm thinking of, and if you're moving off Hero or Duncan, right? Like a Dorian Finney-Smith, Kyle Kuzma, Quentin Grimes, Terrence Mann, Keldon Johnson. These type of guys are two-way players. They can defend as well as put the ball in the bucket. Like Kuzma shoots 35% from 3, excellent front court pairing. He's probably the most expensive man on this list. Same thing with Dorian Finney-Smith. Can't really play make for himself, but can fit really nicely as a role player next to Jimmy and Bam. Quentin Grimes is a good example for a backcourt. He's got a $5 million team option. Maybe Detroit keeps that team option. Maybe he's a free agent, and you could sign him for the cheap to try to get his status back up. Or you can deal him for try to trade cheap to get him and add him to his backcourt, because he's someone who can hit threes and defend on the perimeter. Terrence Mann and Keldon Johnson are intriguing forwards as well. Johnson shot 40% from 3 last year for the San Antonio Spurs, and if they need more backcourt help, this is one that could actually happen. They've had interest in Tyler Hero in the past. Could you save $11 million by trading Hero for Keldon Johnson? Johnson's making $19 million. Not as good as an offensive player, but better two-way and better size. So that is something that I would like to look at. I'm talking high-level role players here. Obviously, I'd like a star. We all want a star. But if that's not on the table, can you get high-level role players that bring you more athleticism and size, but also don't sacrifice the shooting? That's the type of adjustments I think the Heat need to make this offseason if they can't get the Donovan Mitchell type. Make sure you do follow me over on Twitter, because the conversation never stops surrounding the Miami Heat. If you want to stay up to date on the latest surrounding the draft, trade news, rumors, free agency as well, my Twitter is the best place to do it. Content in between videos, and if news happens, I'll have it over there first before making a video. So follow me on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. See you tomorrow with another video. Go Heat.